We also think we're going to have more time in the future than we do in the present. I like to call this bias the yes, damn effect, and it works in life a little bit something like this. The people sitting in this room are some of the poorest in the world, and I can tell this without even looking at your bank account. What I'm referring to isn't a scarcity of money, but rather a scarcity of time. Over 80% of working Americans today report feeling time poor, like they have too many things to do in a day and not enough time to do them. These rising rates of time poverty have crushing effects on our happiness, our social relationships, and our physical health. Time poverty silences our laughter, steals our joy, and depletes our personal well-being. So where do these feelings of time poverty come from, and what can we do to overcome them? The most obvious explanation for these rising rates of time poverty is that we simply spend more time working or completing household chores than in previous decades. Yet there is very little evidence for this idea. Men and women have more time for leisure than they did in the 1950s, thanks in part to a few modern miracles. Instead, time poverty today is caused by our constant connection to technology. Our iPhones, tablets, and laptops create time confetti, fragmenting our leisure into small, distracted minutes of time that are easily squandered and lost. We've all heard the saying, money doesn't buy happiness, and it's true. The best data suggests that money protects against sadness, but doesn't buy joy. Make decisions that allow you to have more free time, even if it comes at the expense of working and making more money. My life's work thus far has taught me this one simple truth. Prioritizing time is really hard. Just like we know that exercise is good for us, we know that time is our most valuable resource, and yet we fail to prioritize it, undermining our happiness and health. It isn't our fault that we fail to prioritize time or that we lose moments of free time. Our brains get in the way. Human beings are pretty much allergic to leisure. Researchers call this phenomenon idleness aversion. I mean, let's be real. When's the last time someone asked you what your plans were for today and you cheerily replied, nothing? We also think we're going to have more time in the future than we do in the present. I like to call this bias the yes, damn effect, and it works in life a little bit something like this. Monday. Hey Ash, can you help me move Saturday? No problem. Tuesday. Hey Ash, want to go to dinner on Saturday? Sounds great. Wednesday. Professor Willens, I have a paper due Monday and I would really appreciate your help on Saturday. Of course. Yes, 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 Saturday. Damn. Oh. When the future becomes the present, we often wish we could take back the things we said yes to. It is clear. Our societies and our minds are conspiring against us when it comes to time. We are taught that money is our most valuable resource. Our free time becomes time confetti thanks to our constant connection to our cell phones. And we say yes way too often, in part because we think we're going to have more time in the future than we do in the present. But luckily for us, just like people who are physically fit, the time-rich among us make small, simple decisions in their everyday lives that allow them to have more and better time. The time-rich among us prioritize time over money. No matter how much money they make, they're willing to give up some of their money in order to have more and better time. They're also likely to take all of their paid vacations. Now, this seems obvious, but many of us don't do it. If your boss were to put a giant stack of money on the table in front of you, you wouldn't walk away from it. But by failing to take all of your paid vacation, that's essentially what you're doing. You're walking away from a gift of time. Each day, we are rewarded with small moments of free time, like during our morning commute or while standing in line at our local supermarket. The time rich among us don't squander this free time. They capitalize on it. It can be hard to prioritize time, in part because unless we are paid by the hour, it isn't always easy to measure what the value of our time is worth. They keep lists with activities that they can complete in these found moments, like texting their friend, calling their mom, or reading an ebook. So the next time you feel compelled to take that "what celebrity do I look like" quiz on the internet, try texting your best friend instead.
Nowadays, people are sitting 9.3 hours a day, which is more than we're sleeping at 7.7 hours. Sitting is so incredibly prevalent, we don't even question how much we're doing it. And because everyone else is doing it, it doesn't even occur to us that it's not okay. In that way, sitting has become the smoking of our generation. And of course, there's health consequences to this, scary ones, besides the waste. Things like breast cancer and colon cancer are directly tied to our lack of physical inactivity. 10%, in fact, on both of those. 6% for heart disease, 7% for type 2 diabetes, which is what my father died of. Now, any of those stats should convince each of us to get off our duff more, but if you're anything like me, it won't. What did get me moving was a social interaction. Someone invited me to a meeting, but couldn't manage to fit me into a regular sort of conference room meeting and said, "I have to walk my dogs tomorrow. Could you come then?" Seemed kind of odd to do. And actually, that first meeting, I remember thinking, I have to be the one to ask the next question because I knew I was going to huff and puff during this conversation. And yet, I've taken that idea and made it my own. So instead of going to coffee meetings or fluorescent-lit conference room meetings, I asked people to go on a walking meeting to the tune of 20 to 30 miles a week. It's changed my life. But before that, what actually happened was I used to think about it as you could take care of your health or you could take care of obligations. And one always came at the cost of the other. So now, several hundred of these walking meetings later, I've learned a few things. First, there's this amazing thing about actually getting out of the box that leads to out-of-the-box thinking. Whether it's nature or the exercise itself, it certainly works. And second, and probably the more reflective one, is just about how much each of us can hold problems in opposition when they're really not that way. And if we're going to solve problems and look at the world really differently, whether it's in governance or business or environmental issues, job creation, maybe we can think about how to reframe those problems as having both things be true. Because it was when that happened with this walk and talk idea that things became doable and sustainable and viable. So I started this talk talking about the tush, so I'll end with the bottom line, which is walk and talk. Walk the talk. You'll be surprised at how fresh air drives fresh thinking, and in the way that you do, you'll bring into your life an entirely new set of ideas. Thank you.